Hello and welcome to Like Patrick Rothfus Criticized Because Really Good Writer, Couch Talks. If you haven't liked and subscribed and bell buttoned, that's down here somewhere. I can never tell which side of the picture it's on, but it's down there, believe me.
Believe you me.
Today we are going to talk about the three books that really are just, they probably my favorite books that I've ever read. It's the books by Patrick Rothfus. It's the Kingkiller Chronicles.
Well, Slow Regard is technically not part of the Chronicle.
True. Takes place within the universe of Kingkiller Chronicles, but it's its own really cool short story that kind of augments the other books.
So to begin with, we're going to talk a little bit about The Name of the Wind. We're going to just kind of do the broad strokes so we don't spoil it for anybody that hasn't gotten into the series yet too much. But this wonderful book is kind of, we meet our main character. The first, I think, 2 chapters, maybe 3, are the most boring and most fascinating and spellbinding chapters I think I've ever read.
Yeah, it's kind of like, I don't know what's happening, and I don't really care, but I'm not going to put this book down for some reason.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's such an intriguing setup to a book where you're like, wow, nothing's really going on, but I kind of dig it.
Yeah, like it's really bizarre. I don't know what trick of writing he used to make it just as fascinating as it is, but I never have felt so bored and so compelled to turn the page at the same time in my life.
It's like the slowest hook of any series that I've ever read. You're like, there's nothing exciting going on. It's not instantly grabbing you, throwing you into adventure and making you like want to like, oh my goodness, this is like a battle scene right off the bat, or there's some fight going on.
And it's not even like, the day in the life of like a struggling, young man or woman like you see in so many other classic fantasy books where it's like, oh, this is my home in the homeless shelter in this one kingdom. It's nothing like that. It's I don't know. It's really bizarre. And but we move on from there into slowly learning more about our main character. And we learn about his past and his childhood, and he lives in a city by himself for a while as a homeless urchin, and we get to read kind of broad strokes of that. Like I feel like there's a lot more story there that could have been written about, but he chose not to write about it, which was fine. I think it served the purpose very well. But yeah, honestly, that like entire section could have been its own book.
It's really interesting because a lot of the setup to the book, it's like he goes into really fine detail, but at the same time, it's like he kind of skips around just enough where it's like he's not leaving out these giant gaps, but if he really wanted to, like there could be entire books built on just his
specific
time
sections
here, just
of
time there. And
yep. And then finally our protagonist gets an exciting turn of events and is able to go to the School of Magic in the universe, which I can't remember the actual
Arcanum.
name. Is it? Okay. So yeah, he heads off that direction, and the rest of the book pretty much takes place with him.
You meet the antagonists.
You meet some of the antagonists.
Some of them, there's strangely, there's like multiple to this universe.
Yeah.
There's like the immediate, and then there's like the overarching ones of the series.
Yeah, and then there's kind of the like their little helpers that are sometimes allies, but also sometimes like the anti-hero-ish type characters. So you get it's a great adventure. It's wonderful. Definitely read the series. Read all of his work. Really, it's amazing. But that's kind of like, where does the first book end up at with roughly?
The first book ends up. It's really hard to explain without spoilers.
I mean,
a little
bit.
It ends within the school, and it kind of ends on the end of the semester, if you want to call it that.
Kind of the end of the year, because I think
it ends on a happy note. He's just like, the actual character's like, we're gonna stop. So, background knowledge that's kind of important to knowing the series. The series is set up as a trilogy, and it's a trilogy of Day 1, Day 2, Day 3. Day 3 will hopefully at some point in my lifetime come out because, man, I'd really like to read that book. That being said, it's been, what, a little over a decade now? 2008?
I'm not. I know we looked up the dates
9?
just a little while ago, but I can't remember. But yeah, it was at least 10 years.
But anyways, yeah, it ends. How much allowed to say without it being too much?
I mean, a little's not going to hurt, but like basically we end up with some relatively lucky turn of events. I feel like some people taking his side that he really didn't expect to take his side, and he gets a job at the school, if I recall correctly. Or does that happen in the second book?
He doesn't really get a job at the school. He has a means of making money through the school by being a student, by creating things.
Yeah, so effectively,
it's a job.
But
it's a job.
Yeah, but that's the end.
He's just not expected to show up, from 5 to 8 or whatever.
Yeah, it's kind of like a on your own time job. But yeah, that is within the end of the first book.
Okay, and so I believe a little bit of time passes between the first book and the second book, but not a lot. I honestly can't remember. It's been kind of a while since I've read them.
I don't think so. I think it's...
Does it just pick right back up?
No, because they instantly, within the first couple pages of the second book, talk about the ending of the first book, because the ending of the first book has significant effect on why things happen in the second book,
that's
so
right. Well,
it does get referenced pretty quick.
And I mean, it does have the unique advantage of, we have our main protagonist actually telling his backstory to somebody in the book.
It's a really interesting setup to the book, because it's like you have your main character, and he's telling his life story to another character, so it's kind of like a flashback and then present setup to the book. Which you think could be really confusing, but it's really, really not.
He did a really good job with it.
Pull you out of the story and let something kind of happen in the meantime, and then it throws you right back into the past.
Yeah. Kind of shows you the contrast between the character, now and the character then. And so I love it. It's really interesting. But I think the highlights of the second book are he takes a little while, like half a year off or something, or a year off of school.
Yeah, so a certain situation arises, and he takes a break from school and kind of goes and chases the wind, as they put it in the book.
Yeah.
And he goes off on a little side adventure. He does things. He learns stuff.
Well, he becomes
essentially ages as a character, because he's a really young character. He's, I believe...
Well, at the end of the first book, he's like
13 or 14 at the end of the first.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's kind of a nice little way of him growing up, and by the time he eventually does come back by the end of the second book, he's like wiser, yet, emotionally still kind of, you can see how...
Still kind of 16.
Yeah.
But I mean, that little adventure was really cool because you got to see him be an advisor to a pretty high up noble person who he ends up saving his life through means I will not reveal in this video. And then from there, he moves on to take out a bandit camp.
Yeah.
With the help of some people and a little bit of luck and some other means that, again, I will not reveal in this video. But from in that, why I bring that up, though, it's important because he meets somebody from the Ademe?
I don't know if it's Adam.
Yeah, I think it's Adem. I could be wrong. There might be a flaw words. A pronunciation guide in the back of the book, like some books do? There is not. Wow, Patrick Rothfus, come on, bro. I need to learn how to pronounce your words, boo.
That to mean he doesn't care.
He doesn't have to do anything so long as he works on the last book.
Fair enough. But that's important because he then goes and lives and learns from the Dem for a length of time that isn't really thoroughly described, but it's described as a fairly lengthy amount of time.
Yeah.
I believe it's less than a year, but it's several months.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. Which is important because that's where he learns all his actual fighting skills besides just street fighting. And Oh, shucks. From there, I can't remember where the character goes. Do you
He goes back, falling out thingies, mabobs happen, and then eventually he goes back to the school, and again, he manages to end it on a high note, but it's kind of under the guise of you assume based off of character hints and stuff that the third book's going to be really
real rough.
unhappy.
Yeah, real rough. Yeah, so again, I if you asked me to pick a favorite between these two books, I honestly could not.
I will pick this one.
Yeah, well, that's
This one
the
is
third book.
really good for a short story.
The Patrick Rothfus's The Slow Regard of Silent Things is probably one of the most bizarre books and fascinating and interesting books that you could possibly read. Do not go into it expecting your normal fantasy anything.
Do not read it if you haven't read those two first. And I believe he actually says something at the start of the book, because he has a little author's note thing.
While I can see why that would be the case, because he doesn't really make any effort to introduce the character in the book, had I just picked that book up and read it, I think I would have enjoyed it almost as much as having a decent understanding of the character going into it.
You get so much more appreciation because the character does things that directly relate to her interactions with the main character of the
and with some of the magic systems in the book as well.
Definitely have read the first one, because if you're not familiar with the world,
you're honestly
going to misinterpret what's happening
I would
with
put
this character.
I would put this book right in between these two somewhere. I feel like some of it takes place in here, some of it does take place in here, but I mean mostly you'd be pretty safe reading it right in the middle of these two guys.
It takes place shortly before he goes on his little adventure, I believe, because based off of things within this book, you can kind of hint about which interaction it is. I can't remember where exactly, because the main character to this book interacts with the main characters of the King Killer Chronicles multiple times. But this is
like
talking
the
about
last quarter, I think, that she really gives it away.
Yeah, well, and what makes this book so interesting is like it's written from an entirely different perspective than most people can wrap their heads around.
Her mindset is very unusual compared to
and one of the reasons for that is in the world you have at least two different kinds of magic systems currently. You have the true naming, and you have the oh gosh, do you know what it's called? The actual core magic system they do. Because there's the system where they can light a candle and then heat up this plate over here.
What's it called? I think there's three.
You have
there's artificing. There's artificing, which is you write down runes, and the runes act as if you are using your willpower or talking.
That's right. Yeah.
There is alchemy. The ones that involves with principles and all that stuff, which is kind of like your classic. You can make potions and whatnot, and they do specific things, but they're also really, really dangerous. And then there is... this is going to bother me if I can't remember.
Is it like sympathy? It's sympathy magic.
It's sympathy. Yes. It's sympathy. Yeah.
Because you can you can take the hair from a doll and perform certain willpower-based actions, and then you can literally light the doll on fire.
It's a really easy concept where it's like, through your willpower, you can change heat to motion, or light to heat, or something along the lines. It's like the concept of motion itself. It's like if you were to take your two hands and rub them together, that turns motion into heat. And so, using your willpower, you can change one to the other.
Yeah,
I think one of the main characters calls it energy, money lending, changing, whatever.
Yeah.
I think Dennis says that.
But basically you can... Yeah. But you can, transfer heat from one location to another, or even transform it into a different action. What she specializes in is true naming. And that's one of the reasons that she has acquired such a bizarre mindset, because one of the things about true namers is that they have an extremely high rate of just going in totally bonkers. So effectively, she's a true namer that learned too many names too quickly, is kind of how they describe it to me, and went insane. And for a time she was locked in their asylum on the school grounds, And it's not very made clear if she actually escaped or if Elodin let her out. I believe, due to some of the things Elodin said, I think Elodin let her out.
Yeah. No, it's never explicitly stated.
I don't think she ever went...
They heavily imply that that's what happened.
They...
Because she has a room there.
He
specifically stopped by her room when he
Yeah.
gave Quoth the tour of the grounds.
I don't remember that.
I'm pretty sure. I could be wrong, but I'm fairly certain. But yeah, that book is, if you really want to like experience a different mindset and just a world through a different set of eyes, that book's going to do it. It's amazing. Do you guys have anything else to add to that?
Winds of Winter will come out before Doors of Stone. That's my prediction.
All right, well, ignoring the negative Nancy over here, we're now going to talk about the game Tack, which we've talked about this game before. It's a self-proclaimed a beautiful game. And, honestly, I'd be inclined to agree. It's very simple. You have wooden blocks, brown and white, and you have standing stones. And the idea is to connect your road from one side to the next. And there's various strategies to achieve that. This game is talked about at length in the second book, Wise Man's Fear. Do you remember that character's name that he plays the game with all the time in the Lord's Mansion?
Brendan.
Brendan?
Yep.
See, I'm terrible with names, but that's why we brought Ray Guy.
Yeah,
I
I
may
just
have
have
read this
nicknames
book like
in my
3
head
times.
that are all total spoilers.
Yeah.
One of the nice things about these books is you will catch some small detail that either hints towards later within the book, later within the next book, or potentially towards the third book. He does a fantastic job of hiding these little hints that, like, you could read the book 3 times and learn something absolutely brand new every single time because you're like, I didn't catch this small detail, but it's a very important small detail.
No, I would definitely be super inclined to agree with that.
And then just seeing this character who, like, in his defense is a child/teenager through all of the story that's being told, completely miss all of the hints.
Yeah.
All of them.
Every single
I think Elodin basically has to tell him that Ori was a namer.
Well, yeah, and he does. He
Yeah.
straight has to tell him, and then also he at one point tells the main pro tag to jump off a roof, and in order to earn Elodin's favor, he literally does. So that's just that's a different level of commitment that I don't think I can achieve.
Yeah,
I just
and
don't
then
understand
Elodin's-
why he doesn't take him on as an apprentice right there, because it's like, you told him to jump, he did it.
Because he was testing that the kid wasn't going to do stupid things just because somebody said to. And then he did.
Yeah.
It was a test. Are you going to do this just because I told you? I don't want somebody who will follow me that
Now,
way.
again, in Quoth's defense, like, he's very, 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 a very, very driven character, especially, when he first gets to the school and all that stuff. But just throughout the series as a whole thus far, he's extremely driven. And so, like, that drive definitely propelled him to make some extremely bizarre decisions. Also, he's like 15 or something. But
I'm pretty sure we decided he's like probably not older than 17 by the end of the second book.
Yeah.
If that.
yeah,
I think they say in the first book how old he was when he got to the school.
does he? Do they?
They say how old he is when he's talking to the Mayor Sean, because the Mayor Sean's like, you can't be more than 16. And he's like, I'm not going to tell him how actually old I am. I'm just going to be like, yeah, I'm young for my age. Because he's like, I'm not technically lying to him.
Yeah.
Telling him that I'm 16, I'm just not confirming the fact that I might be younger than that.
Yeah. And I'm not entirely sure the character is 100% sure how old they are.
That's fair.
Because
He does lose a lot
Yeah.
of time when he's sitting by the river following one particular portion of the book.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
and then he
A lot of
lives
times
for
it-
years and years in that city.
Oh, that's definitely a spoiler.
Anyway,
Well, and also, I
That's
think
it,
when they
yeah.
bring it up, it's one of the rumors around him, which, like, not all of them are true. But I'm pretty sure when all the townspeople are, like, sharing all the rumors, somebody's like, yeah, well, he graduated from this place when he was, like, blah, blah, blah age. I don't remember when it was. And then there's a whole debate about that or something.
Yeah, because there's a little more backstory. There's the school, but then there's like
the town surrounding it, just like most schools
but
have.
there's the school. You can get into the school, but once you progress past novice, you actually join the Arcanum itself.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, you become a full. Is it gilded? There's like the
Guild, that
highest
sounds
level.
right.
You earn your gilder, which proves that you're an actual master. But like he basically skips the novice portion, and so they're like, yep, he basically got admitted into the Arcanum within like 3 days. I think it was something ridiculously short.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
He became an Elir.
An Elir.
There's like 3. There's like knower, seer, and speaker or something. There's Elir, Elfie, and El. I can't remember.
Yeah, I can't remember all of them.
Anyways, real smart kiddo.
Yep. How about you, Sil? Do you have anything in particular you'd like to talk about? Because Ryan and I have pretty much dominated this conversation.
I think we talked about most of the things. It's been a really long time since I read these now, actually.
Yeah.
It's been like 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
It's okay. You'll probably have another 2 years to read them before.
It's true. We're all very bitter that Patrick Rothfus is taking so long. I just hope that he's happy with the book when he releases it, to be perfectly honest,
I mean,
because...
you two can be bitter. I read like 1 book over the course of a month.
Yeah.
And I still have...
Oh.
I still have most of Druid to go through. It's not over there.
Yeah, I thought it was. I thought we brought it back in. It'll still be in the garage. We'll figure it out. But, well, how about your thoughts on tech?
I like it. It's a nice little elegant game.
Okay.
It's a lot more...
I think it's deceptively strategic.
Yeah.
Is how I would kind of describe it. Because
It's perfect for the way it's described in the books.
It really is.
Easy to learn, but there's so much like strategy and technique that you can implement that it's like you think it would be just an easy game, but it's way more than it is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like during your first game, you will figure out the goal and the valid moves. And you will lose all your games to anybody who's played before you because there's just so much more to the game than just those 2 things.
It's true. No, they did a great job. As a whole, I cannot recommend this series and this game enough. The only portion of the series that I'm missing is out of the book Rogues. It's a short story about Bast, which is Quoth's manservant in the place where you meet him.
Manservant.
Yeah.
We're just complaining about spoilers.
That's revealed within the first very
right.
quick.
Yeah, it's like the first page.
You hear that before he even starts the actual story itself. It's made common knowledge.
Because I think it's from Bast's point of view pretty shortly thereafter, isn't it? Like, I don't remember if it starts from his point of view or shortly
he gets
thereafter.
chapters in the first book. I know for a fact he gets chapters before the end of the book.
Yeah. But anyway, it is a very good little story. I honestly don't remember too terribly much about it because we listened to it in audiobook form. But the big highlights that I do remember is that he, on his days off, basically, he goes around and makes deals with the townsfolk and mostly the town's children for information and to perform very specific actions. And
it's really easy to get kids to tell you things they're not supposed to talk about.
Yeah.
Kids have no filter.
And he uses that knowledge to honestly make the community overall but just a better place, and also take advantage of the fact that every single woman in that town loves him. But everything that I've read by Patrick Rothfus is absolutely amazing, and I cannot wait for the next book. I'm very, very excited. Unfortunately, it does sound like it's going to be a while longer because I have not heard a single update.
I did look at it, and they say this every year, but supposedly it potentially could come out by the end of this year, but
we'll see.
We'll see what happens when more editing ensues.
Yeah.
Which is, I agree, it's fine so long as it gets well done. It's just very upsetting because it's just like, they're so good, it's getting so impatient to wait for that last one, especially because there's so much potential. Like, after these 3 days, you could set up for an entire series coming right out the gate following these 3 books.
It really could.
It's just curious to see what direction he decided to finally take with it.
Yeah, no, I mean, we're not really here to talk theories or anything, but I'm definitely excited to see where everything goes. Maybe we'll make a video based solely on theories and such once Zill and I have had a chance to reread them, to keep up with Ryan, who's read them much more recently than us.
Books are fun.
Yep. Well, with that, guys, we're going to let you go. Again, don't forget to subscribe, like, ring that bell, share with your friends, and all that jazz. Thank you so much for listening.